How's it going, everyone, and welcome to part 2 of the season finale of Buddy's House of Horror podcast. Yes, season 3 has officially come to an end at the end of this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this season. I hope you enjoyed this 2-part episode. And yeah, we're going to be getting to picks 5 through 1 in today's edition of the show with me and, of course, my boy, Midnight Miles. If you guys haven't already, you got to make sure you watch the first part of this podcast first, because obviously you're not going to be getting picks 10 through 6, and those are very important for a top 10. But yes, as I said, we're rounding out the list today. We're rounding out the season as well. Season 4 is going to be coming this October. If you guys have any suggestions on what you guys want to see in season 4, please let me know. And yeah, I'm going to try to keep this intro short because, again, it's another long episode for you guys. But if you guys haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you're listening to it on, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and if whatever you're listening to this on lets you leave a rating and a review, make sure you go ahead and do that. It really helps out the show a lot. And now that the season is over, why don't you go ahead and share your favorite episodes of the show with all your friends, because I want season 4 to be the biggest and best season so far. And yeah, as I said, just thank you guys for listening to the show. Thanks for listening to all the shows this season and in previous seasons. I really appreciate the support. And yeah, I'm gonna wrap up this intro. We're gonna get right to the show. So here it is, the top 10 horror sequels of all time, part 2. Now let's get spooky. So, we're on your number 5.
We made it.
We're halfway done.
Halfway done. This is where... Fuck, I should have brought 20 more drinks, Cac. Fuck.
What do you want? You want a beer? What do you want?
I might want one.
You want a Stella or PBR? I can get it for you.
Well... Yeah, I'll take a PBR. I might
Alright.
have a drink. I'm fucking not hungover anymore. Why not drink? Shit. Anyways, the top 5 for both of us. Thank you, kind sir. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Here we are. Yeah, I thought, buddy, maybe we're gonna take a commercial break. I wasn't sure.
No, just turning the air on. I see you removed the hoodie, so I was like, all right, he's getting a little hot.
We're in between. I keep getting like, I must be going through menopause or something, as I'm showing you my whole list right now. But I keep getting hot, cold. I don't know. All right, top 5. This is the one I'm probably going to get shit for, if anything, on my top 5. Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2.
Go. I'm not going to give you shit for it. I said it was underrated. I'm not gonna give you shit for it.
I absolutely love this film, and the problem is it's sandwiched in between 1 and 3, which are everyone's favorites. I mean, really. Fandom wise,
right?
And I feel like it gets underlooked because it's almost like the bastard child of the series, because it's actually horror. It's not horror comedy. Where like the other ones, they're horror, but come on, Freddy starts cracking one-liners every fucking 5 seconds.
Right,
like,
yeah.
All of his lines basically become like funny one-liners, even though there is horror elements. They're horror films, but you know what I'm saying.
Oh, I know what you're saying.
But you got something to say?
I was gonna say, spoiler alert, we already alluded, but I had rewatched all of these films recently.
Right.
And I was blown away because had someone told me, like, rank the Nightmare on Elm Street films or whatever, I would have put 2 as the worst.
Ooh.
And I was very wrong. I was very impressed with part 2. I mean, we'll talk about it, but yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad that you said that, because I wish more people would fucking...
Because when I watched them the first time, not only did I think part 2 was the worst Nightmare film, I thought it was like one of the worst films I ever saw.
Really?
At the time. But
it's it's hard. It's a lot different than 1 in a sense, but it's horror. Like, there's one of the scenes that pops in my head immediately. There's an iconic scene where they're in the gym or whatever, and like they're doing this pan shot of the gym, and it's kind of dark, and like I think the boys are like, some of the boys are gonna go take a shower or something like that, but it's a little bit later at night. I don't know if they're after. I can't remember if it's after practice or what. Camera does this beautiful pan. He's panning, and in the distance you see this like red pulsating light that you don't understand why it's there. So you can tell like there's something.
If you're talking
there.
about are you talking about how they go to the bar and the gym teacher is at the bar and then he makes them go back to the gym to run laps.
Oh, that's it. Okay,
Yes.
cool. Again, I used to watch part 2 every couple years. I've seen it a handful of times. I can remember most of it, but you've seen a lot of films, start to get a little bit older.
Right.
Sometimes things blend a little. You remember maybe 75% of the film.
But no, they see their gym teacher at the gay bar, and then they're like...
That's right. But you can tell something's going on. Just there's like subtle things that are like, I just love about that film. Like little light things, little atmosphere things, little... Nightmare's always been good with that in the series, but I feel like as the series went on, the films went faster. Like it was like, get through this scene, get through this scene, get to this. Where like this film kind of lets scenes breathe. Like
right.
Organically breathe. Like obviously there's a big thing where everyone thought it was a whole, queer film, like literally because everything hints that everyone's either about to fuck or that was the big thing. Have you not heard anything about that?
No, I've heard a lot about it. Yeah.
Okay,
it's a big... The gay community really champions this film, and I get it. Like, I mean, they're not undertones; they are overtones.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, that's not. It doesn't impact the quality of the film. It's just that is what it is.
I think though that they tried, from what I like the stuff I've read and watched. At the time, it bothered a lot of people when it came out because I feel like it was like very clearly like.
Right. Well, I mean, you got to again. This is the early '80s or whatever. I mean, still. Gay is taboo at the time, you know what I mean? Like nowadays you watch and you're like, all right, whatever. But like back then I can see it like being
especially
controversial.
In what would become, I mean, obviously Nightmare on Elm Street 1 was a huge hit, but in a mainstream series like that,
Right. And I talked about this earlier, but I watched In Search of Darkness Part 2, and they talk about Nightmare Part 2 in it, and they got like the actors back, and I guess even at the time, like the actors were like ridiculed because they were like, oh, you were in that gay horror film or like whatever.
Yeah.
He was like, whatever, I was in that gay horror film. I made more fucking money than this bum talking to me right
exactly,
now. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I love the whole final act of the film when they get to like that like backyard barbecue party and they're all
partying. The pool party, yeah.
The pool party, and Freddy gets... I like this because it's the one time in the series
he's out of the dream.
Yes. He gets pulled into reality, and it's fucking insane. Like, shows up, kids are going off, hedges go on fire, people get fucking slashed, and it's just like pure anarchy for a few minutes. I love that.
It's an insane scene, but then I guess to counteract that, when you compare it to the rest of the series... doesn't really make a whole lot of sense that he's out of the dream.
It doesn't,
I guess.
But they do. To me, they do a good job because they find a way to pull him into reality because they try to use it as a way to kill him or get rid of him.
Right.
And then the iconic scene where he comes out of the body.
Yeah.
They actually have a proper boiler room scene in this too, it's suspenseful at the end, which I felt like they obviously started to get away from in the other
yeah.
Freddy series or Freddy, films, Nightmare on Elm Street films. So I don't know. I just really like the setup of it. There's a lot of iconic scenes. As you said, maybe it doesn't make a lot of sense with some of the things, but I feel like in all the Nightmare on Elm Street films, they're really trying to try something new to find a way to keep the story going in every film.
Right.
So it doesn't really, when I watch a series as a whole, that doesn't.
And I will say this, after rewatching all of them, Part 2, in comparison to a lot of the rest of them, is very memorable. Like, I remember everything that happens in Part 2. Like, even still, after just rewatching them, like, a couple months ago or whatever, when I had COVID, I watched them all. I was like, that's what I'm going to watch. Even now, like, 4 through 6, I'm like, well, what happened in which one? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just so, like...
I love 4. Actually, my favorites in the series are 1, 2, and 4. Everyone, I get ridiculed for that.
I know you get a lot of shit for that.
Because I have a fucking Part 4 shirt. Like, I think Part 4 is better than Part 3. I enjoyed it a lot more.
Jared and I were on a Two Nerds podcast a while ago when we were roasting each other's Letterboxd score. We were looking at yours too, and we were laughing at your reviews of all the other films in the franchise because it would just be like, oh, I still like this one better than Part 3. Like all the reviews.
I didn't even know I did that, but that's all right. I like Part 3, but I just don't. don't know. It's good. I mean, it's really good. It's a really good film. It might be the most well-made film in the series, maybe, if I could say that. I don't know. Like,
it's tough to say. I would say at least the Wes Craven trilogy. That's the most well-made out of the three.
Well, he only did. Oh, you're talking. Because New Nightmare.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is what I would, if it was on my list, that would have been the one I would have picked.
New Nightmare is great.
But the one thing I don't like about New Nightmare is I think the ending is fucking horrendous. When he's like in the hell or whatever, and they're just like literally beating him up, and he's stuck in a gate, and it's like, Freddy can do whatever the fuck he wants. Why is he stuck in this gate? But I don't know. Regardless,
I almost considered, as an honorable mention, I almost considered Freddy vs. Jason, because it's not really a sequel.
It's a great film.
It's
a great film.
It's not a sequel, but I thought about being an asshole and being like, well, technically it's a sequel to 2 franchises. It's still in there. But, fuck, Freddy vs. Jason is so good. Yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, it gets a lot of shit that it doesn't deserve. It's what I consider to be the last horror, pure. Nightmare on Elm Street 1, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, for the most part, are like pure horror. There's not Freddy doing a million one-liners, doing a bunch of things. Then when you get to part 3, tonally things change, and they work because they made a fuck ton of money, and they're all really fun films. But I kind of miss when Freddy was a legit nightmare monster, really hunting and killing people. You know, like without saying, "It's prime, welcome to prime time, bitch."
Right.
Like, of course, I laughed. Who doesn't? That's fucking. You sip, you flex. It's an iconic scene. You know, I mean, phenomenal. But it worked then. But then it's like him, like every other fucking film. Like,
it's like, what can we do to increase the comedy in like every film? So the next one on my list, speaking of the horror comedy kind of thing, this is another series that has fluctuated between horror and comedy, where the first couple are horror, then it goes a little crazy, and then it tries to bring it back, and bring the reins in a little bit. But this is one that I think balances the horror and comedy pretty much 50-50. Very strange pick. Cult of Chucky is my number 5.
Oh, fuck.
Cult
after Curse, right?
It's the newest one. Cult is after Curse.
Fuck, I've only seen this one once.
So it's very different from the rest of the franchise, and that's what I like about it. People would probably say Curse of Chucky is the best sequel.
I really did like Curse, yeah.
But the problem with that, for me, is when I'm watching a Child's Play film, I still want Chucky to be funny.
Okay.
And in Curse, he's not... I mean, it's more straightforward horror. After the series went completely off the rails with Seed and Bride of Chucky, where there's no horror at all, and it's just complete craziness.
I've only seen... I'm not even sure if I've ever seen Seed all the way through. I think I've seen it like 3 times in bits and pieces. And same,
it's bad.
Same with Bride. I think I've never watched Bride once all the way through. I think I watched half of it and then another half of it. I don't know why. Like, for all of my big horror franchises, Child's Play is kind of
at the bottom.
But it's weird because like Child's Play came out kind of towards the end of the big 80s horror boom. It really was probably the last 80s horror franchise that became a franchise. A lot of sequels were made in the 90s.
Right.
I didn't see Child's Play until I was... maybe I did see when I was probably maybe like 16 or 17. So I already had a bunch of like... I'd seen... I don't think I'd seen everyone yet, but maybe. Friday 13, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, and I'm like, these are my guys, I'm like, and I was already getting into like some other weird horror, and then Child's Play came on, and I was like, all right. First Child's Play, when I first watched it, I wasn't really, it just didn't resonate with me. It wasn't, whatever. I don't know if because I was too old, not too old, but when you're young, you think about your doll coming to fucking kill you. That had to be terrifying.
Right, yeah.
But I remember liking 2 and 3 a lot.
I think 2 is better than the first one still.
Is 2 the one... What's the scene where they open an oven and doesn't like a fucking house explode or something?
I can't... It's either the second or... I can't remember which one it was.
I just remember that scene being really fucking funny. But anyways, continue.
Yeah, it's... the series has reinvented itself many times, as I said. Like, some are horror, some are just comedy. But this is one where they really balanced it out. Because Chucky's still funny in it. It's still scary. It's a direct sequel to the previous one. It shares many of the same characters.
Curse.
Andy comes back in this one. The original Chucky doll is in this one, but it's just a severed head.
Right.
That he's been keeping and torturing. And there's like 3 or 4 Chucky dolls in the film because he's possessing multiple dolls, and each one has like a slight personality difference in it.
Right.
Which again I think is a unique twist in it, because it's like, why not possess more dolls if you can?
Right.
Again, it takes place in a mental hospital. It's very different from the rest of the series. It's very slickly shot. There's that great scene, the great kill where like she's laying down on like the hospital bed, and then the glass ceiling breaks, and it's just the shards of glass that fall in slow motion, completely cut open her whole body. Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say about it. Fiona Dourif is the star of it. Okay. She was the star of the last one, so it's the father. I mean, they don't play father and daughter in the thing, I don't think, but
no, nice
connection there. Yeah, I don't know. It goes completely insane, takes a lot of risks. It's really crazy. It's just a lot of fun, man. Like, some Chucky films are fun for good reasons. Some are fun because they're so bad it's good. But again, this one, I think it balances everything out. And I hope they follow it up with another one.
Well, so they're supposed to be making a TV series that Don Mancini is in charge of. That's why. It's Don Mancini, though.
Right, yeah.
That they're going to keep everything, and it's going to be a TV series for Sci-Fi. Now, Sci-Fi's like 10 p.m. and later stuff. It's been pretty gory and pretty ridiculous the past probably 5 or 6 years. They kind of reinvented their TV stuff again.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be good. I don't know how they're going to do. I don't know how many episodes they're going to do. But
if they did like the limited run series kind of thing, like I think
6 to 10 maybe. I don't really know how they could push.
Right, I don't know what you're gonna do. Yeah, but it ends with them on the run basically because they escape the thing or whatever. So
I have more vivid memories of Curse than Cult, but when I watched Cult, I watched it with like 4 people, and 2 of them couldn't shut the fuck up.
All right,
and it wasn't Jared Latchy. Just spoiler alert on that. So. It took me out of it a little bit. Like, I was in it, like, I'm sitting there like this. I don't even think I talked during it. I was like this. So I'm trying to watch it, and everyone's like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, man, can you shut the fuck up? Like, I'm trying to watch this. Even though it's if you're going to have friends around, watching a Chucky or a Child's Play film is good. But I actually really liked the remake.
I thought it was overrated. But that's fine.
I didn't know if it was.
Because everyone loved it, and then I watched it, and I was like, I mean, this is fine.
I think the expectations at some points, because it was like one of the last actual remakes. It was just out of nowhere. They're like, we're going to remake Child's Play.
Right.
And I think the story worked really well for modern times, to be honest. Like, to be able to get, like...
I mean, I knew it was going to be a lot different, but, like, I guess for me, like, I just find it more interesting that the doll's possessed than it's actually just, like, a doll that is defective or whatever.
Yeah, I can get that. I mean, yeah, I get that.
But yeah, I mean, there's not too much to say about it, really.
I might have to rewatch that one now.
Yeah.
Now that you said that, that'll be the one. That'll be the one that I go. Let's see. You still haven't seen half my list.
I know, right?
So. Did you think it was going to be that many that you hadn't seen?
I didn't think it was going to be that many. I thought it was going to be like 2. I didn't think it'd be like 5.
I was going to say,
but now that we're getting into your top 4, I mean, I would hope that I've seen most of these.
So are we gonna? Can I throw part 4 on now, or my number 4?
Yeah, you're good.
Well, here we go. We can talk about this. Hellraiser 2.
All right,
Hellbound.
cool.
So there we are. Hellraiser 2 is everything I wanted Hellraiser 1 to be. When I remember watching this, I'm like, this is what the first film should be. Basically, like in my head. I mean, they had to set it up. I understand why they had to set it up that way. Then there was some budget like constraints in the first one. You're setting up a new franchise,
right? Yeah.
And this is also, we've talked about a lot of late 80s shit in this. Actually, Hellraiser came out a similar time as Child's Play. When I really think about when those were coming out, 88, 89, like, Freddy's a joke. Jason's dying down because they've sequeled him to death.
Right. Yeah.
Comedy is really taken over in horror. I mean, there's not a lot of, at least in like the mainstream. All the sequels are coming out for horror films are fucking basically horror comedies. It's one-liners, this and that, crazy, wild, gory kills that are unbelievable, which I love. But it was nice that a couple straightforward horror franchises came out at the end of the 80s, when we talk about this. I feel like that's probably why Hellraiser worked, because it was probably like, not only the creatures were so iconic, the Cenobites, but also it just was horror. Like, there's no comedic element to it.
Right, yeah.
2, though, man, the fucking doctor that's obsessed with fucking Pinhead, they actually go to, like, the fucking underworld or part of one of the
Cenobites,
like,
the whole realm. Because we had, cheap plug for a podcast I did a few years ago, we had Nicholas Vince, who played the Chattering Cenobite, on the show before. And he definitely says that there's 2 distinct camps where basically everyone's split on which one's better, Hellraiser 1 or Hellraiser 2.
Right.
And I guess, like, I give the slight edge to the second one. Just because, as you said, you get to see what you want to see. I want to see the Cenobites' realm. I want it to get weird. Like, the first one, you got to set up the story. There's some gory stuff in it. Obviously, the guy is regenerating back to life.
Right.
But the second one is just batshit insane. Like,
there's that scene where, like, she's in the hospital and the doorway opens up and that, like, giant creature comes out of the underworld. It's just, like, crazy shit. Like I said, the doctor becomes a Cenobite, gets transformed.
Yeah.
He has that scene where he's connected to that thing on his head and he, like, comes down. It's really fucking cool looking.
Like, this one, I think, is even scarier than the first one, too.
Yeah.
Like, there's the one scene in this that, and few things in film, like, genuinely, like, disturb me or, like, make it, like, hard to watch. But the scene where it's just, I can't remember if it's, like, man or woman, but it's just the body that's all muscle. And it's on the ground, just, like, crawling throughout the apartment. It's hard to watch. It's rough, dude.
There's some great scenes in this film. I got to see this when I was in school. We worked with a film school. They had a theater there next door. And I got to do with my one teacher, Chris Patrick, who was my main makeup teacher. He found out I really liked seeing things in theaters, and he always did Monday nights with the film school presenting a film that was, like, makeup heavy. So luckily my like 3/4 of my college time there, I got to plan these, like, for, like, whole semesters, like, what are we going to watch? Why is this relevant? All this stuff. Which was actually one of my favorite parts of going to school, because it was basically like someone was giving me free range to a beautiful fucking private theater.
Right, yeah.
Which was fucking sick. Like, I mean, I'll never forget that. But we sat down one semester and I was like, I really want to watch Hellraiser. We tried to not make it all horror. Thankfully, he turned me on to some, like, a few, like, great makeup films that I probably would have, like, I don't know if I never would have watched, but I might not have. You know what I mean? So it was, like, really beneficial for me, too. But we did get to watch some of my favorite horror films and things like that. So when I told him, like, I think we should do Hellraiser 2 Hellbound because it's fucking crazy and phenomenal, look great on the big screen, and he was 100% like, I didn't know he's a fucking champion of that film.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah. He does an introduction before every every Monday we do a quick introduction, and he just comes up for the one for Hellraiser 2, and he goes, I just want to let everyone know Hellraiser 2 is better than Hellraiser 1, and that's a fact. And I start laughing out loud. He just looks at everyone and goes, that's a fact. And I'm losing it, dude. I'm losing it, and he goes, that's a good enough introduction, and then he just fucking goes and turns the film on. And I'm just like, at the time, people didn't use this. But if now, I would have gotten like, legend. I just yelled it out loud. Like, but seeing that film on the big screen does it even more justice. Just you color palette guy, but the colors of some of the makeup.
Oh, I don't mind the color in this.
No, I know. I was poking fun, but just it looks so. They find a way to make that film look very big when I know it's not. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
Like it looks like they had even a much bigger budget. There's stuff happening. Like, I know the effects budget obviously had to be fucking huge because there's some crazy effects in this film. The Cenobites and everything's happening. There's a lot more movement in this. The Cenobites in the first one are in like very stationary, like you'll see them just like standing.
Yeah.
They'll be like this, looking menacing. Like they don't move a lot, if that makes sense. Like it's a lot of like them, hiding behind walls and glimpses of faces and things like that, which is very terrifying. But in this one, it's like, okay, we get to see some, not action, but a little bit more going on.
Yeah.
But what else you got to say about it, huh?
Hey man, you ranked it a lot higher than me. You should have more to say.
I know, but I've been talking.
I mean, like I said, like there's some shit in it that's hard to watch. The one thing in this the only thing about it that's like weird to me is like when the Cenobites are like getting cleansed or whatever, and like you see them in like their human form.
Yeah, that's
and like, and the thing with me is like they didn't even get like the actor, because like if I was doing that scene, I would have had the actors who actually played them do the thing. It's like, oh yeah, this is what the guy actually looks like or whatever.
Right,
but like they recast them for the humans, and I don't know, it's just kind of weird.
Was that?
Except Doug Bradley, he's the only one that's
right. Was that? I wondered too at the time if that was because the makeup was so extensive. If they were shooting on days, they also had to be in makeup.
That's
so
true.
They might have done that 4 times.
Well, because like it's the same camera angle, like it doesn't move. It shows them as that, and then they turn into. So it was probably the same shot. So they just had to switch out the actor real fast. Yeah,
they might have done that literally because of budget and time constraints.
Yeah, but with Doug Brett, I mean, you have no choice because I mean it's his actual face.
He's too. Yeah,
like,
the thing
you know
is,
what I mean?
He was too iconic. That'd be if they put Freddy in the same position. You couldn't have Joe Schmo instead of Robert Englund. You know, like I just think that it's by far the best Hellraiser sequel. And I said it's for me.
I've only seen the first 2, but
I went and I've done the whole series. That was one of those ones that I did.
I'm so sorry.
It's a very weird series. Some of them are a lot better than you think they're going to be. Like, they're really good. Some of them, Hellworld, is really fucking stupid and really bad. And I have a hard time saying that. But Pinhead trapped in an online massive multiplayer RPG.
Jesus Christ, I didn't even know that was a plot to one of Jesus Christ.
This was like 2003, 2002, whatever. Yeah, he literally is a character, and I think he's possessing this online RPG game.
Jesus Christ.
And it's just...
It's so dated.
But the thing is, like, even the scenes with him are so bad. He's not in it enough. I don't even think there's any other Cenobites in it. It's just a cheap cat. Like, and it sucks, because I can't even remember, because their names are all different. Like, this... Hellseeker, Hell this, like, you know, they all have like different fucking names, but Hellworld's probably one of the worst sequels I've ever seen to like a major series. So
maybe that could be a list in a future episode, the worst horror sequels.
Oh my god, I'll have to rewatch Hellworld. I'll probably fucking kill myself after. We could watch it together and I could just like watch your reaction about how fucking stupid it is. Like, god, it's so bad. Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth is pretty good. It's really fun. Hellraiser 4 I like a lot. It's the one where they fucking like traveling through time. Like they're like, or like they show the box at different time periods.
Okay.
And then at one point they're literally in space. Like, it takes place so far in the past and then into the future.
So far in the future.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like, it's a really cool setup for a sequel, and that the way they set it up, that should have been the final one.
Yeah.
But then, of course, we know how things work.
It's going to make money, yeah.
And I think 4 did actually pretty well, because 4 was the last one was in theaters. After that, they just went all straight to video.
Yeah, I would hope
so. But yeah, anyways, you should, one day you should take the dive into it.
Take the deep dive.
Just skip Hellworld. You're not going to, if I'm saying it's...
That might be one we have to do a commentary for. We'll set this up and we'll watch it.
I'll do it. If we're going to do that, I'll do it, but...
Oh my god.
Ugh. Anyways.
We're into my top 4.
Let's do it.
We're in my number 4. This one I know is not on your list.
Okay.
Because another sequel in the franchise I can guarantee is on your list. This one I think is an underrated pick, because a lot of people would probably pick the one that you're going to. But my personal favorite, besides the original, actually I think all 3 of these.
Pretty sure I know where this.
I think all 3 of these stand on their own. They're all phenomenal films. I don't think any of them are necessarily better or worse than the other ones. But besides the original, my personal favorite out of the franchise is actually Day of the Dead.
Okay, I knew this was
that's where
I knew this.
Did you know that I was going to say Day of the Dead?
Yeah, I knew I knew everything you were going to say, and I agree that they're all great standalone films. But now I'm going to let you go off on this. Yeah,
it's so underrated. It's very bleak. It's the darkest. Ironically, being called Day of the Dead, daytime.
Yeah.
It's ironically the darkest out of the 3.
There's no hope.
It's underground. There's no hope. It has probably one of the best, if not the best, human villain in horror. General Rhodes, I believe, is his name, or something like that. Yep. He gets his comeuppance, and goddamn, he gets his fucking comeuppance.
So good. So
one of the best kills of all time. One thing I appreciate about that kill, and I don't know if you've noticed it, I'm sure you have, but when they're tearing like his neck apart, and his vocal cords are like shredding, and his voice goes from normal to just like a screech.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
I guess I never thought about that in depth, but yeah.
And it's hard because I think it's underrated because, again, you're following up 2 masterpieces. So it's like, how do you do it a third time?
It's also hard because it came out right around the same time as Return of the Living Dead.
Same year as Return of the Living Dead and Reanimator. So 2 of the other biggest zombie films of the time are coming out in the same exact year.
It's almost has the same problem that The Thing did when it came out in 1982 is it's too bleak for what it's coming out around.
Right.
Especially when you get to the mid to late 80s and I just talked about everything's going to comedy and all this stuff.
Right.
And then you just drop Day of the Dead.
You're just like, fuck.
Yeah.
It's
like,
over.
I
mean, it does have some comedy in it. It does.
It has. Yeah, very smart. Very smart.
Speaking of smart things, it has the smartest zombie of all time. One of the best zombies ever in film.
Yes.
Because he is... I don't want to say I guess they imply that didn't lose his humanity, but he's regaining his humanity, or he's learning.
They're trying.
They're trying.
They're in, for people that haven't seen this, because we've talked about, basically they're in an underground bunker in like fucking Florida.
Right.
They don't even know if anyone in America is fucking left alive. They lost. I think they have a thing where they talk about losing contact with like their last 2 outposts. Like they were talking to people until maybe like a few months before that. They haven't heard anything. And in the beginning of the film, they're riding around the helicopter to see what they see.
Right.
And it's just there's zombies everywhere. So they're in this underground fucking military bunker. What are you gonna fucking do? Like, they're basically trying to keep their sanity, keep it together. So,
and they're not listening because they're like, there's the military there. There's like 5 or 10 people or whatever, and then there's the couple scientists that they have with them. They're not fucking listening to the scientists.
Right.
They call him Frankenstein or whatever.
Yeah, Dr. Frank. Yeah, they call him. Yeah. And he's getting a little wacky though, and he's kind of just like, well, I'm down here. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna experiment on zombies and see what see what the fuck happens.
What else about it?
Originally, Day of the Dead was supposed to be a much bigger film.
Oh yeah,
it was supposed to be huge.
Yeah.
Like there was supposed to be a bunch of above ground like zombie fighting scenes where they were like the military was gonna be like driving fucking like jeeps and doing all this shit, and like it was supposed to be like his grand like opus. Like it was supposed to be like a fucking 2.5 hour zombie epic, maybe even longer than that. And they were going to agree to do it. Whoever was going to put it out, or one of the people who was going to put it out, I think they ended up switching, like producers or whatever. But they wanted to be rated R, so he could have the long epicness, but he was going to have to cut a lot of the scenes he wanted out. Well, George A. Romero doesn't want to cut a fucking thing, and so he's not that. He's definitely one of those directors. He's like
no.
He's like, I'd rather lose my entire budget, lose any dollar I made off of this, but the film's going to look how I fucking want it to look. And couldn't find someone to back, couldn't find anyone. It was too much money, it was too much whatever, because I think he was going to need at the time like 10 million just for the shooting, stuff like that, which nowadays, is a lot. I mean, inflation-wise, for a horror film, things like that added on to whatever the budget was initially,
Yeah.
it could be super high budget.
Yeah.
So everyone was, even though it's George A. Romero and he's fucking done the zombie films, did creep shows, made people a lot of money, they still were having a hard time getting it back. So he ended up doing the film as is, but he released it unrated. It was the last. It was the last film to have. I think last film to be unrated before Hatchet 2, which we talked about in one of your other other podcasts.
But I think that maybe in hindsight that was a good thing because that really gets to the heart of what the film is about. And all of his films have the social commentary, obviously, in the one that you're going to talk about, the mall shoppers are zombies.
Jesus, way to really fucking...
Well, I mean, it's obvious. You're wearing the fucking shirt right now.
I know,
dude.
God damn it. I didn't even mean to do this, and I thought about it earlier. But anyways.
Yeah. But, I mean, in this one, it gets to the real heart of it. The humans are the monsters.
Yeah.
So, again, any focus that you're going to have on this and that, like, this is very boiled down to what he's trying to say. And yeah, I think it's I think it's the goriest out of all of them. If you were, I mean, it's close.
Unless you're gonna watch, because I'm dying, man. This COVID cough. I'll tell you, kids, don't get COVID. If you mask up, wash your hands. Maybe by the time everybody listens to this, they'll all be vaccinated, herd immunity. But unless you're gonna watch the director's cut of Dawn of the Dead, we'll just say it. I'll say it out loud.
Right.
Have you ever watched the director's cut? Because it's a lot longer.
I'm not sure.
It's
whatever Blu-ray version I have is what I've
Blu-ray
watched.
is going to be the. You have the Blu-ray of that?
I can't remember.
It's really fucking hard to find that Blu-ray. That's why I wondered.
Probably not. Then I probably just have the regular one. But
I've watched all three cuts because Argento has a cut.
Yeah.
So they all are very different. I mean, as different as can be. I mean, but basically the director's cut has a ton of more gore in it. Like, there'll be, like, zoomed in sniping headshots and, like, all this shit. And it's, like, it's just... Basically, Romero says, like, oh, yeah, I like the theatrical version the best. But there is...
But there is this.
There is this
there's all the stuff I shot.
25-minute extra shit that's... I think the director's cut's the best version. Not just because of the gore, but it just makes it... You just feel it feels fleshed out. Everything's fleshed out.
Right.
There's actually a scene. The guy who plays Rhodes, like that Rhodes, he's actually in Dawn.
Oh, really?
Dead. Yeah, not in the original.
Not in the real one. Yeah.
But when they're trying to escape from Philly, they go down. They're by the to get the helicopter. And there's those cops. There's a cop that asks for a smoke.
Oh, okay.
There's a whole scene before that. He's another cop. There's a bunch of other cops there.
Oh, okay.
They're on a boat. They're gonna escape by water.
I don't know if I've ever seen the director's cut then.
Yeah.
Unless I just don't remember this.
I feel like probably you would because you'd be like that. Oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's a dude from Day of the Dead. I think his name's like Joe Amato or something.
I don't know.
I think he just died last year, a year or two ago. I think he just died. Right?
He might have. Yeah.
He was like in his 60s or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. He wasn't super old.
Yeah.
The other guy who plays the other main soldier in this died like a month or two ago.
Oh, really?
The guy with the glass smoke the cigar?
Yeah.
He just died like a month ago. So, rest in peace to them. Rest in peace to Romero, seriously.
Yeah.
That other guy, I forget his character's name, the cigar smoking military guy, he's pretty good character too.
Yeah. But I don't know what else to say. It's just great. I mean, I love the idea of trying to humanize the zombie. I love the synth music in the film.
So good.
It's so good.
I have the soundtrack, actually.
I'm trying to see what else I wrote down for it. I didn't write too much.
I love the beginning. I love that they're going out and like looking to see if there's any signs of life. Like they're still trying to still, maintain routines, do this, but obviously they're slowly losing their fucking minds, especially the military guys.
Yeah. There's a lot of women empowerment in this, which when you compare it to the other films, the female characters don't really have too much to do. No,
he gets better as they go on with doing that, but also I think because the times are changing, he understands. But he's not. I don't think he's doing that as a consolation prize. He's doing it just to be like.
That's how cinema. I mean, because obviously you had Alien at this point, you had Halloween. But yeah, there's no Barbaras in this.
No. Mind you, when Night of the Living Dead came out, if you saw your brother being fucking killed by a zombie, it might scar you a little bit at the time. Just a little bit. Especially when you've never seen a zombie before and you're like,
Right.
Holy shit. But anyways.
Yeah, that's about all I have to say about that one.
Fantastic film. Obviously, I told the memory of that I watched it the same day as Return of the Dead Part 3, so I have very fond memories of the first time I've seen it. I think I saw Day. I know it's reference. I think I saw Day before I saw Dawn. I think I saw Night, Day, Dawn.
Huh.
Because I told the story on one of their podcasts when I got that. I still got to show you that
DVD.
Yeah, it's cool. I got to show it to you sometime. But yeah, are we moving on? Are we doing this?
Yeah, number three.
Here we are.
It's getting into the home stretch. Yeah.
I know you've seen all three of these, so
I would hope.
He's like, please, dear God.
I don't know if you've seen my 3, but we'll get to it. But go ahead.
Get to it. Friday the 13th, Part 2.
Controversial pick, but I'm on board. Just go ahead. I don't think it's that bad, but
I love Part 2, and I love Part 2. I own like 3 I think it's the film I own the most copies of. I think I have 3 copies of this, like 2 Blu-rays, I have 3 Blu-rays of this now. I have a single disc, original Blu-ray. I have when they released that Friday the 13th 8-film collection a few years ago.
Right.
I have that, and then now I have the new box set. So I have 3 copies on Blu-ray. Might have a DVD floating around, and I think I have this on VHS.
I was going to say, I've noticed this about your list. You're a big fan of the second film in the franchise. And with your top 2, they're also the second film in the... Because I know what your top 2 are. But they're also the second film in the franchise. Well, I don't know the order, but they're both... I know the 2, but... Go ahead.
I love this film, not only because obviously it introduces Jason for the first time, but I love Sackhead Jason. I like him because he's still very human. He makes a lot of mistakes in the film.
Oh, yeah.
He's not a perfect killer, which I like. The thing is, a lot of these films, you see these things, whether, and a lot of times, like Michael Myers, Freddy, some of them, there's such powerful supernatural entities. It looks like they can't make a mistake. Or
I would say
killers.
More so with Michael, but Freddy, once you hit him once, he's fumbling all over the place.
Yeah.
And
that's true.
same with Jason in this film, because obviously once you go on and he's punching people's heads off and shit, he's indestructible. But in this one,
Freddy has a little bit more power though too. He's doing it's different. But this is very much a backwoods, deformed man who misses his fucking mother, and he's confused and just wants to get people off his property, essentially. Kill him, get off my fucking lawn, dude. But
this is another one where, similar to Saw 2, when people are talking about Friday the 13th, with the exception of the mask thing, but as far as things that happened and the tropes, they're talking about Part 2.
Right.
Because in this one, that's where you get the classic scene where they're sitting around the fire.
Yeah.
That's not in the first one, that's in the second one.
Right.
But go ahead.
And the second one's just, even as a kid, it's just so iconic to me. I love Sackhead Jason. I'm going to jump around a little, but I love the final scene that. There's that long chase where he chases her for 15 minutes through the entire...
And he runs. He does run. I want to clarify. He does run.
Yes. He chases her the final girl, through the entire, camp, basically. There's the shrine to his mother, which I thought was ingenious. I love it. It's an awesome set piece. It's done,
Great tribute to Psycho as well.
Yeah. Brilliantly. It's one of my favorite kills of all time. I feel bad saying this, but the fucking wheelchair, machete to the face kill, and the wheelchair rolls backwards down the stairs as the camera zooms in. I'm sorry, that'll get me laughing any fucking day of the week. Right. It's too fucking good. I like that. There's the way to survive a Friday the 13th film is just stay at the bar.
Yeah.
This is the only film I think where multiple people live through it. The ginger guy in this goes, I'm just going to drink some more beer. Lives.
Fine.
Survives. Jason doesn't come to the bar.
Yeah.
There's a handful of them, the people around the campfire, when they all leave to go to the bar, the group separates kind of 50-50. A few of them just stay at the bar and survive the night.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of cool that like there are random characters they build up and they just live. Like you know, you kind of don't know what happens to them, but they're fine. You know, they didn't get destroyed. Especially like that because they focus on that like the skinny ginger guy quite a bit. From the beginning of the film, he's in like the first 5 minutes.
Something about Friday the 13th, more so than Nightmare or Halloween, it really lives off the sequels. Because if we can be honest here, first Friday the 13th isn't that great. I mean, it's fine, but I mean, it's not like Halloween where universally, besides your opinion, the first one is like undisputed the best. Same with Nightmare. With this one, it's always more of a debate, like which one of the Friday the 13th do you like the best?
Right.
Because the first one, I mean, it's got the good scene at the end, but it's a fucking dream, so it's a slap in the face, and then...
I love the first one. I absolutely love it. I'm not going to disagree with what you're saying, besides the fact that I fucking love the first Friday the 13th. I actually watched it quite a bit. I actually watched it, I don't know, around Halloween again. Like, I even though it doesn't have Jason in it, if anyone didn't know that by now, it's listening to this, just
like, how are you listening to this podcast?
Shut the fucking podcast off. Like, just put on the first Friday the 13th and then put the rest of the podcast back on. But, yeah. But I love it. I like the kills in it. I know we're talking about the sequel, but I love the first Friday the 13th. Do I think it's a perfect film? No, it's a very straightforward, simple film. But I do like the fact that it plays off that you don't know if it's Jason or not. I think that's a cool element, you know. But part 2, and there's a fucking here we go on this. There's the girl. There's the funny story. There's the girl. There's the one girl with the nice tits that you never see in the full film, and I feel I'm gonna get fucking hung alive saying this, but they cast her because they wanted someone to show their tits in the film, and you know, the curly haired girl,
right? Yeah,
and she doesn't wear a bra, and you can see basically whatever. Well, they're about to go do the fucking scene, and she goes, "I'm only 17," so she lied to them to get
the part.
She didn't know. I don't think she knew she got to show her tits. Like, they didn't tell her. That was one thing that they kind of like, you know, probably like, well, when it gets on, we will. So they go, well, fuck. So the scene where they get impaled, like her and her boyfriend are fucking, and they get impaled by the fucking spear that he fucking finds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because she, you know, they had to shoot that way because she couldn't show her tits.
Right.
And this is the only time I didn't know that until way later. Granted, I saw this when I was a kid, so I was like, you know, whatever. I'm younger than fucking her, or, you know, whatever. But now as an adult, I feel a little. Sometimes I'm just like, oh man, like I don't stare at them. I don't, you know, whatever. But Friday the 13th Part 5 is the best tits. So the scene, the best tits. I always talk about tits and
so here's the thing: the Friday the 13th remake. The guy in that film is 100% pure Miles.
Oh, the guy with the nipple placement guy, right?
Yeah.
The most iconic line in cinematic history to me. Baby, you got great nipple placement. I even told the story the other fucking... Who hadn't seen it? Was it...
It was Maisie or my wife, one of the two. Or both.
That fucking scene, dude. There's also the scene in that where Jason's... Like, the girl's swimming. She swims on the dock. Jason sticks a machete in her head. And then to pull it up, he pulls her up, her head hits the dock, and her tits are just exposed for like a minute, and then pulls the machete out. I'm like, that is some grade A fucking cinema right there, brother. That fucking remake is... Have you ever watched the deleted scenes for that? The extended cuts for that?
I don't think
it's
so.
It's even fucking better.
I'm going to now that I shot the missile and I got the box set, I'm going to have to rewatch it. Here's the thing. Last year we did Halloween. We alluded to what we're doing this year, so the following year only makes sense. We finalized the big 3.
This is hard because now I talked about my love for this, but
one thing I would have loved, and this is another sidebar, but it's horror is interesting. We always said with Halloween, the mask shouldn't matter to Michael Myers, like what he's wearing. And in the first film, Jason's not even in it. Second film, he's wearing the sack. He gets the mask in Part 3. It would have been a horrible marketing decision because you can't really sell merch like this. But what if every film he's like using something else to cover?
Whatever he can find. Yeah. there would, fuck, you kind of always have to be masked, but like when they do the zombie Jason as it goes on, he could have had one where it was just him walking around as a fucking zombie.
Right.
But it became too iconic at that point.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It would have been a horrible marketing decision. But
it's all about merch, man. You know, look at Halloween though. Halloween was supposed to be a different film, as we talked about before, and they're like, no, Michael Myers.
Yeah, like nice try, brother.
We're pushing this.
Yeah.
Part 2 though. Part 2 just says I just love it. I like it because Jason's not a perfect killer yet. I like the cast. I think the cast in this one, I don't know. I will say out of all of like the main horror franchises, a lot of the Friday the 13th have like, I really like the cast. Like I like the group of kids. I like who's like in it. Like they're funny. They seem believable. You know, look like they're having a good time, and then they're just pulled into this fucked up situation. Like the dude in the wheelchair in this seems like the sweetest fucking dude. Like he's just like arm wrestling, but he seems like very genuinely sweet person. So like when he gets fucking, like it's funny, but I'm just like, God damn, dude. Like,
right.
And he didn't want to go to the bar because he's in the fucking wheelchair. You know, he can't do the things the other kids are you know, that they're doing or whatever. But I actually really like the final girl in this. She's like a little more tomboyish than a lot of like final girls are in like later films. Like I'm not in much like this, but in like other franchises, and she does a really good job of like being scared, but also being very smart.
Right. She
trips Jason when he's running out heights and trips. She's trying to find ways to outsmart him as the film goes on.
Right.
Which I think is great because a lot of final girls sometimes they have that moment of clarity and they do something, but she's constantly thinking as it goes on to be like, can I stop him here? How can I do this? Can I do this? Like, she's really trying to find a way to stop Jason. Yeah.
And I haven't seen it in many years, but who knows? We might have to pull the trigger on that one.
I think it actually is the shortest sequel. I think it's 81 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the thing is, the first 3 or 4 minutes are flashback, but it's very quick. And then it cuts to 10 minutes of another scene with Jason. So really, with the camp and everything, it's only about 65. They're only out at camp like 65 minutes. It blows by. It's a quick while. It's a good while. Like it just never lets up. It's done. You're like, God damn, that was quick over. Like in a good way. That like I don't know.
So my number 3.
Here we go.
I can't believe we're in the top 3.
We made it.
And I don't know if you've seen this one. I don't know. You could have. It's by far the oldest film on either of our lists.
Okay.
Like by a wide margin, by decades.
Okay.
One of the honorable mentions that someone had submitted at the very, very beginning of the show was Bride of Frankenstein.
Okay.
Said it was a great sequel. Didn't make my list.
Okay.
Son of Frankenstein, however, did make my list.
This is one that I've watched one time on TCM very late at night, and I don't have a strong memory of it. So I'll put not in a bad way, but it's like one of those things that, like, you know, sometimes you watch shit and you're half asleep and then you just like.
And again, this is another reason why I was like, all right, we're going to talk about the big 3 with Miles, so let's showcase some of these other things.
Right.
So it's from 1939. It was the first film in the second horror cycle after Universal had stopped making horror films in the 30s.
Right.
So this is when they brought shit back, because people were like, all right, we've seen Dracula, we've seen Frankenstein, this shit just fizzled out, like the war's going on or some bullshit, and they're this shit isn't scary anymore.
Right.
They re-released Dracula and Frankenstein in theaters.
I remember,
and it fucking blows the roof off the place.
Well, so the magazine, wasn't some of the monster magazines, too, keeping that shit alive? Like, kids started finding out about them more?
Not till the 50s.
Okay. That was like the other resurgence then, right?
Right, that's when, Hammer was going on, and then they released everything back in theaters back then. And then they remade Dracula and Frankenstein, like, in America in the 70s.
Right,
But, yeah. It was an all-time high of cinema around this year because the same time Wizard of Oz came out, right?
Oh, wow.
And so scary imagery is... Because, I mean, Wizard of Oz is not a horror film by any stretch of the imagination, but you've got the witch, you've got the monkeys, you've got the creepy fucking trees and shit.
Right.
So people were willing to be scared again because the scary films weren't doing well at the box office. So they're like, fuck it, we're gonna make another Frankenstein film. They were gonna do it in color because of Wizard of Oz, but Jack Pierce couldn't get the makeup right on Frankenstein.
Yeah.
So they're like, woof, we're just gonna do this one in black and white again, which they did. It's by far the biggest budget and the longest out of the Universal films at that time. Mm-hmm. Like, the original Frankenstein's like 62 minutes or something crazy. Yeah. Like, this one's like an hour 45, I want to say. Like, closer to that. The budget is reflected, obviously. It has crazy sets in this. And not only were they able to get Boris Karloff back after he had become like an established star, they were also get Lugosi in there as Igor.
Right.
And Igor, of course, becoming the horror icon that Igor is. Right. As I said, it loosely follows the continuity of the other films. Obviously, there's no fucking home video in the 30s. Right. So, unless you caught the re-release of these films in theaters like the year before, you're not gonna know what the fuck's going on. Right. So, a lot of it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, Frankenstein is just wearing a completely different outfit. It's not explained at all. There's a lot of shit that doesn't make any sense. Bride of Frankenstein almost made my list. And my opinion of these could flop at any time, but basically the reason that I think this one is a lot better, not only because of Lugosi in one of his best roles, but this also has another great human villain called Dr. Pretorius, who's completely fucking nuts. In Son of Frankenstein, the monster's also, he goes back to not speaking. In Bride of Frankenstein, he talks. He's like, that's where you get the bread good, fire bad, like shit like that. Yeah. In this one, he doesn't talk again. I don't know if they just decided to do that because people won't remember, because Lugosi's talking the whole time, or what have you. This is probably Lugosi's best performance. It's better than Dracula, in my opinion, because he's given a lot more to do, other than just, like you said with Hellbound. Like, Dracula, he's standing there, he's menacing, but Igor's running around being a fucking crazy person. Yeah. So, I don't know. It's a lot more to do. Boris Karloff, obviously great. And people say, like, the monster isn't hard to play, but, like, I mean, like, you gotta still emote and shit like that.
I mean, it's... especially emoting through, like, makeup and stuff like that, it's just a whole different beast, you know?
This also marks his last time playing the monster. People think he played it for, like, billions of years. Like, I think Lugosi played Dracula, like, a billion times, but he only played it twice. Right. This is the third and final time he played it, other than, like, TV parodies and stuff where he'd, like, show up in costume and shit like that. And, yeah, I mean, I really don't know what I could really say.
It's hard, like, on how with some of the films you hadn't seen on mine, like, I've seen this, but it was one of those things where it was, like, I with Universal Monsters, I try to watch as many of them as I can. Like, I have some of them, like Wolfman, Frankenstein, like, on Blu-ray and stuff like that. Like, I don't have the full pack, but when they release some of the individual ones over the years, I've gotten them. I'd like to watch every single one of them. That's been something I've wanted to do for a long time. But it's just one of those things, like, there's so many years of film, there's so much shit out there, there's always new shit coming out.
And it's such, like, a niche thing. Yeah. Like, unless you're, like, a film historian, or, like, someone is, like, recommending, like, all right, these are, like, the top 5, like, you need to watch. It's, like, it's so hard to keep up because, like, there's just the main title ones, like the Frankenstein, Wolfman sequels, all that shit. There's over 30 of just, like, the main series, you know? Like, that doesn't even get into, like, the obscure shit. So, like, it's just really tough to do. Another thing about this one, the son of Frankenstein himself, I haven't even talked about him yet. Basil Rathbone, great performance. He was Sherlock Holmes for many, many years. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of like a three-way, like, battle of wits. Like, you've got the son of Frankenstein, you've got Igor, and then you have, like, the police chief who has, like, this backstory with Frankenstein, like, pulled off his arm when he was, like, a kid, so he has, like, a wooden arm and shit. Yeah. So, like, basically it's a battle between the three of them. Like, there's very little of the monster in it, but it makes up for it with everything else. And yeah, I don't know what really else to say about it.
I'm gonna have to rewatch that as well. I'll throw that because you're talking about watch some of the stuff. I'm just more shocked on some of my stuff that you haven't seen it. Where I'm like, all right, dude, you got to see some of this now. I mean,
right?
Because I feel like most of what I picked were like, they probably weren't the sequels in some of the series that you thought I was going to pick. But I feel like still like, at this point, it's almost like mandatory viewing.
Right.
I mean, just like I should rewatch. Like I said, there's definitely some of the Universal films I need to rewatch or watch.
Especially as a makeup guy. I mean, like Jack Pearson shit. He revolutionized your whole I had a whole career. I had a whole class on it. You know, I had a whole class on him. I mean, you know, just a couple classes, wasn't like a whole semester or anything. But you know, we had a whole history of makeup and stuff like that. But yeah, he couldn't get that makeup right. What it wasn't in color.
It's hard. I couldn't even imagine trying to, like, you get used to doing things for like so long one way, and then, you know, just like people that were silent film actors,
right?
You know,
And
they couldn't. They just everything transitioned. They couldn't do it. They couldn't hack it. You know, it's really different. Cinema outgrew them essentially.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a great film. Great everything. Brought back, and that's what popularized the horror sequel and the fucking monster mashes we get now with the Freddy versus Jason.
Right.
Wouldn't have happened without Igor versus Frankenstein. So
there we go. That's the fucking.
That's where it started.
That's the real words. That's the facts, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. So.
All right.
Your number 2.
Final 2 of the suspense. Well, I feel like this should have been a given. I mean, you know what they are, but.
Do you know what mine would be?
I don't.
My top
actually.
2?
No,
okay.
Like I said, I really have not thought about it. I feel like myself, though, I'm very outspoken on like my favorite films. Like pretty much people know.
I feel like one of my top 2 with my number 2, you're gonna be like, oh, like that's like surprising you would have it that high. My number 1, you're gonna be like, oh, I can't believe I didn't think Buddy would pick this as his number 1. But go ahead. Okay. With your number 2, we're talking about you. I'm talking about myself.
No, it's good. We're doing this together. That's how I came. Like, what do you think of this? You know. It's also getting late. We've been doing this podcast.
We've been doing this for a while.
I hope that people...
We started this at like 8 o'clock. I just want everyone to know it's now 11:30. We took
a little pause. We had a little bit of you know, we didn't break kayfabe there, but we did a couple pauses in this. Let's be honest. I'm surprised I haven't fucking peed yet. I didn't pee through this whole podcast.
Should we take a piss break?
No, I'm okay. No, I'm in the zone right now.
All right, go ahead.
I gotta get back to Mocha too. My boy. Halloween 2 is my number 2.
All right.
Did you suspect that was going to be?
I didn't know what the order was. I know what the top 2 were. I was like, all right, it's either one of these 2, but I didn't know what one would be which.
Halloween 2, and it's hard because we've talked about
this a lot, yeah.
If you haven't listened to the Halloween franchise episode,
highly critically acclaimed episode from last year. Yes.
Critically, we almost won some awards, right, or some shit. I don't know. I do think that was the best podcast we've done together. We've talked about that privately, but I thought that was a very good podcast. I just wish I would have rewatched
any of the films.
Well, I really have seen, outside of Friday the 13th, I've seen the Halloween films the most. Like, I mean, throughout the years. I mean,
right.
You know, I've seen them a lot. But when you try to think about an entire series in a couple hours, it gets a little fucking confusing. But I mean, you just rewatched Nightmare on Elm Street, the whole series, a little bit ago, and you're like,
yeah, I'm gonna have to read the Wikipedia pages before we record that one, brother.
Spoiler: we didn't say what it was, but
we've alluded to it several times. It's fine.
Well, stay tuned, kids, because there will be a ranked Nightmare on Elm Street podcast coming this year, which I'm very excited to do. But back to the top 2, Halloween 2, in my opinion, I've said it before, perfect sequel. If you watch those back to back, if someone just put on a 3-hour film and they were like, this is Halloween, didn't even say it was separated, like somehow it was cut together.
Right.
Would you not know that it was one long film?
Hey, give me the 3-hour supercut. I'd be all game for it. Yeah.
Be fantastic.
The only thing is the wig is a little noticeable at some points, but other than that, I mean, you could pass it as a 3-hour film. Yeah.
Ingenious, takes place fucking minutes after the first film ends. I always thought that was brilliant. Takes everything that the original film does and just continues it. I know that I'm sure as many people would say the guy who directed this one is it Rick? Is it Rick Rosenthal or what?
It's something like that. The same guy that did Resurrection or something.
Yeah, you didn't know that. I spoiled on the thing. I was like,
Yeah.
a dude who did. Yeah, that was my big spoiler thing on that podcast. That the guy who did 2 fucking directed Resurrection of all things.
Rick Rosenthal. Yeah.
Okay, my brain works sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, just barely. Anyways, his direction is pretty fucking good in it, I think. But he's not John Carpenter, we'll just all be honest. But I actually think John Carpenter, listening to other controversial thing, John Carpenter got to be a better director after Halloween, though. I was going to say...
Halloween is my favorite film of his, but you can't really say it's his best film.
The Thing's my favorite of his, but I feel like that's pretty... That's top 5 for me, so... Of all time.
Right.
But 2, and this was another one... I saw Halloween 2 before I saw the first one.
Yeah. We talked about that on the last one, yeah.
I said earlier, when I was in school, I kept a Halloween 2 poster.
And your Texas Chainsaw.
And those were 2 films that were, very vivid to me when I was young. And Halloween 2, even at a young age, was easy to follow not seeing the first one.
Right.
They kind of just explain, what happened, mostly just through random subcontext, and clues and things like that, and it was easy to watch as almost like a standalone film.
Yeah.
I thought the ending was great. I thought the acting for the most part was great. I thought it was great that he was still chasing Laurie. Gets to the fucking hospital. All the hospital scenes are great.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. You let me know, brother. What do you think?
Everything we said last year. The hot tub scene is incredible. He uses a syringe on someone. Just everything about it. As you said, you could put it right up there with the first one. And while I don't think it's necessary, you think it's better than the first one. Although I wouldn't put it above it, it's almost nearly right there. Even with the tone of it being so much more modern, slasher film kind of thing. And obviously, there's more gore in it. The first one had no gore whatsoever. I don't really know.
I've never seen, they made the TV cut the year
I've
after.
seen the TV cut. And they also use scenes of that in some other film or some shit. And flashback or whatever. But where it shows it's the TV cut of the first film that uses scenes that they shot from the second film.
Oh, that's what
because it's the first one because in the first version in the TV cut they explain that they're brother and sister, when in the theatrical one that didn't exist at the time.
Right. I thought there was a different cut of, or maybe there was just deleted scenes of part 2 where they show the ambulance driver live, right, or whatever.
Something like that.
There's something where they
something
would
weird.
have changed the story,
right?
And they either didn't put it in or there was a different cut, briefly different cut.
Yeah, there's something weird.
Yeah. But I feel what else is there to be said about it? That I really do think though it is the perfect horror sequel. The way a template,
right? On how to do a horror sequel.
How to do a horror sequel right, without completely
doing something different.
Yeah.
As your number 1 does something completely different from the first one.
Keeps alluding.
So my number 2, a little bit of a I don't want to say controversial pick because I think it's a great film, but maybe this high. Miles didn't expect that this would be up this high. And surprisingly, this is the first... Well, I guess not surprising because found footage films don't really get too many sequels. Paranormal Activity 3.
Oh, I almost
is my number 2
as an honorable mention, and I floated around the idea of putting it at number 10. Actually, believe it or not, because this was the first one I liked. I did not like Paranormal Activity 1 when I first watched it. I thought it was boring and overrated. I thought that's probably of all the biggest hype films. I thought
the hype was unbelievable. You had to call your cinema to request to have it and shit. The hype was unreal.
Two made 1 a lot better, but I still was just it's okay, it's all right. Then I watched 3, and I was this was the first one I saw in theaters because I really liked the trailer. Something about the trailer, I was oh, this is pretty.
Right, they did like the cool Bloody Mary thing in the trailer, which they didn't even really do in the film.
There were 2 trailers though, right?
Right.
The second, because I remember the second one really sold me too. But I was like, all right, I'm gonna go see this, and I fucking loved it. Love Part 3.
So, I think this is easily the best out of the franchise.
Agreed.
And I guess similar to you, I have a very vivid memory of seeing it. I had worked at the cinema at the time. It was playing at the mall. And I was like away at college, and I was like still working there on like the weekends every now and then and shit. And I had come back to watch it, and it was after it was already in theaters for like a month. Oh, so wow. It wasn't in any of the big ones. It was in the small, shitty room. Okay. And me and my girlfriend at the time went to see it. We were the only ones in the theater. And since it was the old shitty one, there were noises, like the AC unit was like loud as fuck, and just watching that in there, and you're the only 2 fucking people in the whole thing, it was the scariest shit I had ever fucking seen in my life.
It wasn't very scary film in parts.
But just like that whole experience of just like you're isolated and you're in this big space, like you're not like sitting alone at your house watching it, like you're in a big open area watching it. Just something about like every noise hits, just like just the whole experience was just like crazy.
Side note to that, as we're reminiscing about theaters, do you remember the back theaters at the Saybrook Theater? The ones you have to walk down that big like L-shaped curved hallway.
Yeah,
you get to the couple back theaters. Those were because I worked at that theater, worked at opposite theaters in town. Cleaning those at like midnight at night was always like, because you're so far back there, like you could yell, because I think we'd tried, you could yell in that theater, you couldn't hear it. You couldn't hear it because that hallway like turned and would just suck like sound.
Yeah.
So I get that, and watching like those theaters were even smaller than the small one you're talking about. The mall.
Oh yeah.
Those were like fucking 35, 40 seats maybe, and those were like, you were back there. It was kind of like something to be eerie to be back there, come out like the last showing or something.
Yeah.
Anyways,
but even taking that experience out of it, because I've watched it many times since, and that one's still the best. Even taking out that, like, even if you're just fucking, if we popped it on right now, it would be the best one out of the franchise.
Oh yeah.
There's just so many things about it that were so inventive. Obviously, like in the other ones, they're using cameras. It's like, okay, why are they filming all this bullshit? The guy is a wedding cinematographer. He's getting all these VHS cameras. He's like because like in the other ones, it doesn't really explain like, okay, like are these cameras just recording continuously? But he's like saying, oh yeah, we're in like 6-hour record mode on these VHS. I have to switch it over in this hour. Like he's like super into it. He puts the camera like on the fan, and that is like genius.
Yeah.
When it was like on. And it's slowly going back and forth. And again, we talked about this with like Annabelle or whatever. The anticipation is like, all right, you know something's going to happen when that camera fucking pans over. You just don't know when it is, or you don't know what it's going to be.
His assistant, I really liked his assistant.
Oh yeah, oh he's great.
That guy was great. Arguably, of like outside of the Blair Witch, this probably might be the best found footage film I think of all time.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely up there. I mean, it's my favorite found footage film of all time. But
Blair Witch holds a special spot in my heart, though, as it always will. I
haven't seen The Last Broadcast. That one's been on my list.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that one, too.
Yeah, that was the first found footage thing ever, I guess.
Yeah. I remember reading about that.
But yeah, as far as the paranormal films go, like, I think the first one's good. The second one is slightly better, but the third one is just like on a completely like different. I think of the Paranormal Activity films, if you think of it as like a pyramid, I guess. You're going up. Number one's at the bottom. You're headed up there with number 2. 3 is the peak. You're going down with 4 and down further and further with the rest.
The only ones that I really, really like a lot. 2 is pretty good. The thing is, 2 made me appreciate 1 and how they were telling the story. If 2 wouldn't have been the way that it was, I would have not liked 1 even more. I really didn't. I don't know. I just couldn't get with it. 2 they made it seem like they always had 1 and 2 planned though. So I'll give them that. Right. They did a good job with that. 3's leaps and bounds better than every film in the series. I mean, it's insane actually when I think about that series how much better it is than everything else.
Right.
Really like the Mark ones though, but it's very different.
Right.
Like I really like the ones probably the only ones I would ever go back and rewatch. 3 of the marked ones. Those are the I didn't think it sucks because
I liked 4, but I've only seen it the one time in theaters, and it might have just been like the environment I was in. Like I liked 4.
The main girl in 4 was just so annoying and unlikable to me. I just didn't care about her at all.
Right.
It was too much.
And then I haven't seen Ghost Dimension. I was like, I can't deal with this.
You know, Ghost Dimension was only out in limited theaters, right? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
I went to Menor and watched that like opening week because I was curious. I was like, fuck it, you know, and I went. Fuck, it's such a weird way to end the series. Almost like even though there was some final chapter, Jigsaw came after, but it's like. It's so far removed from what it was, and it was so bad in parts that I liked it.
Right.
But at the same time, I don't remember much of it. Like I remember kind of like the whole ending, but it's definitely not like a satisfying way to end the series to me.
Right.
You should. I guess.
I may as well just to finish the series.
I don't think it's very long. I might think that one might be another like 80-some minutes.
They're like, fuck, we got to get this over quick and fast.
I don't even know why they. I don't know. I think they were trying to make amends because I don't think a lot of people really liked 4.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think so because 3 was pretty. Everyone was pretty.
Yeah, everyone was on board with 3. But as you said, the 4th one, not a very likable main character. I will agree. But this one, all the characters are likable.
So likable.
And I love like the banter between. The guy and his assistant is
it's
like
so
because like at one point he's like, "Oh, did you make a sex tape?" It's just like shit like that is so funny. And in general, like a lot of these films focus around adults, except for 4. In this one, like I just think it's like scarier when it's like happening to kids.
There's some the scene where they go and open the door and like the witches or whatever just like turn around slowly.
Yeah.
Fire.
Oh yeah, the whole ending is absurd.
It's so good.
And yeah, it takes place in the 80s. All the other ones are like modern day, basically. So it has that nostalgic element for it, even though I wasn't alive in the 80s. But I mean, I shot a bunch of shit on VHS when I was a kid.
Right.
So, I don't know. It's just, there's not too much to say about it. It's just really fucking good. It's really good. There's nothing really to say.
It's cool that it's that far up on your list because it's actually, it's definitely one of the better modern horror films too. And that's probably one nowadays. The Paranormal Activity hype was so big, and now I feel like I don't hear anyone talk about it at all. Like,
right.
It's like almost like
did how this even happen?
I was like, even when like it's like Avatar. Like Avatar was the biggest film in the world. No one watches Avatar.
Yeah.
Now. Let's be honest. I didn't even like Avatar that much when it came out, and I don't know how it made a zillion fucking dollars, and it's getting 3 sequels that.
Right.
We'll see if they make money.
Insane, yeah.
They'll make money, but I don't think they're going to do what they think they're going to do.
Yeah.
We're on to number 1, huh?
We're on to number 1.
Well, number 1's to Buddy. It's pretty obvious. He hinted at my top 2 like 150 times on this, so I think everyone fucking already knew. But here it is, my number 1, my favorite, tied with my favorite film of all time. This is, I can't pick a number 1 between these two, but for like films ever. But Dawn of the Dead is my favorite sequel. When I originally put this list, I said like a few years ago I was gonna do this on Letterboxd, write a whole big article because I don't know, I just wanted to do it, which is kind of how like I was really excited to do this podcast, like do the horror sequels, because I actually brought this up to you quite a while ago about doing this. I was like I really want to do a horror sequels podcast, and I really I don't listen to a ton of podcasts. I browse through some. I listen to random episodes. But I haven't heard anyone really do, have you, a long horror sequel, talk about sequels?
Not really, podcast. No.
So, originally, when I made a list, I don't know where it is, screenshot it somewhere. I think Halloween 2 was my number 1. But then I had to take, because it wasn't a numerical sequel, I had to be like, wait, your fucking favorite film ever, or tied favorite film ever, is a sequel. And I was like, Dawn of the Dead, man. That's like, I watched Dawn of the Dead, I don't know how many times now, but a fucking lot. I always come back to it. I've watched all 3 cuts multiple times. As I said, the director's cut's my favorite. But to me, I didn't see Dawn of the Dead until I think the first time I saw it, maybe I rented it. I can't, don't quote me on this, but my biggest memory of Dawn of the Dead was I just moved out from Ohio to Maryland. I was 19, then I just turned 20.
Oh, you watched it late.
I don't know if I think I saw it before this. I think I did, but I can't remember. So this is my first memory of it. You have to realize Dawn of the Dead was the one that was never on TV.
Right, yeah.
Ever, growing up. And it's one of the ones it's out of print on Blu-ray in America. It's out of print on DVD in America. It's actually a pretty hard film to find. And that's why, like, I have friends ordering, like, my one buddy just ordered the new European set because the fucking Ultra Blu-ray or the 4K Blu-ray, 4K Blu-rays are region-free. Did you know that?
No,
but
I didn't know that.
Regular Blu-rays aren't region-free.
Right,
so
obviously,
all Blu-rays, if they're 4K...
Anywhere.
Sweet. So it's cool.
Yeah.
But the thing is, fuck you, Sony, if you're hearing this. I'll probably get murdered tomorrow for saying this. PS4. I have a PS4 Pro. I know you got the big boy, the PS4 or PS5.
The PS4.
PS4 5. Which I'll get eventually, but I'm not really in a hurry. Thankfully, Resident Evil 8's coming out soon, and it's going to be on PS4, so that's why I'm not in a hurry.
Way to date the podcast, bro. We already did it at the beginning. It's fine.
We already broke kayfabe way too many times in this. I lost my mind on this. Oh.
For the 4K Blu-ray.
Yeah. So it's because I was going to order it. I can't play it in my player because they don't. The 4K streams in 4K or plays games 4K.
Right, but it's not.
You can't play that. So... fuck me. So I can't get that new set. I'm still waiting for them to come out. I don't understand why there's not a set out in America. It's actually mind-boggling. There hasn't been a Dawn of the Dead release in America on video in 12 years.
That's crazy.
12 or 13 years. Something like 2008, 2009 was they released the Blu-ray.
Jesus Christ.
Might have been even earlier than that. And it's only the theatrical cut with almost no special features, and it's been sold out. Pretty much. I mean, you want to... I don't even know how much it is to look up. I've never looked it up, but I know it's sold out everywhere. I have the Ultimate Edition DVD, and that's been sold out for like a fucking decade, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's my favorite release. My favorite thing. It's a big black box. It folds open completely. There's manuals in it.
You'll have to show me when you show me the other one.
It's fucking sick. So... I don't know if I saw Dawn of the Dead before.
Yeah, Blu-rays are going for like $70 on eBay. There's one for like $120. Yeah, they're not easy to get.
No. So I don't know. This might have been. I might not see it until I was 20 because people don't realize for some reason Dawn of the Dead was the hardest one to fucking find, the hardest one to watch. It was not on TV. The video stores around us didn't have it. Trust me, I've looked
Trust us, yeah.
The Ultimate Edition came out, and I moved out, and my parents said, well, we want to send you something for Christmas. I wasn't going to come home for Christmas. First Christmas, not home. So I asked for two things. I asked for the Encyclopedia of Star Wars, which is fucking
legend.
Crazy. Three encyclopedias. Still have it. And then Dawn of the Dead Ultimate Edition. I get a package right before Christmas Day. I wait to open it. I'm living in a room, just a room. A room as big as a living room. That's it.
Right.
I just got mocha like 3 days before Christmas. And then actually my girlfriend at the time was a flight attendant. That's why I was in Maryland. She had to fly on Christmas, had to work. So I'm spending Christmas completely alone. I lived in a house for like 3 months before I moved to a different place with like a bunch of people to work to the airport. It was a really weird experience. That was my first experience on my own, you know?
Right.
And I'm going to spend Christmas alone. I'm eating fucking fish sticks on fucking Christmas.
Legend.
And...
hey, that's what Italians eat. They eat the fish on Christmas Eve, so you're all set.
So my TV, I'm sitting on my bed in this room. The bed's on the floor. The TV is faced how we are right now in front of me, but it's on the ground too. This was back in the day, kids. It was a big tube TV. This was,
hell yeah.
So everyone's probably like, what the fuck is a tube TV? Anyone who's not our age or are older, you know. Or they're not in a retro. Maybe they're kids. They're into retro shit because retro is the fucking word now. I sound like I'm 100 years old. But sit down, throw it in my fucking PS2 that I was using as a DVD player, obviously at the time as well.
Right. Yeah.
So sit down. Mocha's asleep in Stinky Pink, which people don't know what that is. In that Mocha has a girlfriend that's a Hello Kitty.
You've had it for that long.
Mocha used to lay inside Stinky Pink when he was a puppy. And then one day just start fucking it. It's always been with him. It's always the first day he was home. The first thing I put him in, I took my beanie off when we got him from the pet because he was so thinking I put him in my beanie because it was like December 22nd. I'm pretty sure it was a day. Put him in the beanie. His head just sticks out of the beanie. I hold him and I carry him home.
I'm gonna fucking cry listening to this shit, bro.
And I put him. I lay his little ass body in this fucking pink blanket, and he would not leave my side. I was working for the newspaper at night at the time. He would not leave my side. The only way you could get that dog to leave is if you put him and completely wrapped his entire body in Stinky Pink. And then he would eventually fall asleep, but he had to be right by you.
Right.
And he would, if you got up to pee, he'd be out looking at you like, where are you going? What are you doing? Like, God, the first year with Mocha was fucking hilarious. But it was good. It was very good memories. Very cute. He was such a insanely cute dog, like so funny, so lovable. And we spent almost that first year like constantly together, you know.
Right.
He's laying down, finally sleeping. Throw on Dawn of the Dead. I'm just like watching it. You know, I'm done eating. I'm obviously not eating the whole 2 hours, and I eat my fucking fish sticks. But it was probably one of the most memorable Christmases I've ever had. Because the simplicity of all of it, and I've always done well being alone, because I spent a lot of time alone in my life with certain things, and I was very much like at peace, like with the decision that I made to move and everything that I did, and then I've been wanting, it might have been the first time I saw Dawn, I don't remember, but I remember wanting to either see it or wanting to really spend time and watch the film so much, because at this point I was obsessed with Night of the Living Dead, and I just wanted to see Dawn. I know that even if this wasn't the first time I saw it, like, I remember that feeling for years, because there was a huge gap where I couldn't find Dawn. I've been looking for it, or trying to searching through TV guides. I used to read TV guides. I mean, I was really trying to watch Dawn of the Dead, you know?
Right.
And I watched it, and every second of it, I was just like, every time I watch it still, I'm glued to the fucking TV. I think the setup's perfect. I think it takes the bigger, better, faster, just everything through the roof compared to Night of the Living Dead. It's such a different film than Night of the Living Dead. Love all the characters. They all service like their roles perfectly, I think. Some hilarious one-liners in it.
Oh, yeah.
Ton of political and good commentary, making fun of all those PA hillbillies. Little did I know, a couple years later, I'd be living near.
Right.
Like, you know, I'd be like kind of living where they shot these films. Story's great. The zombies, it's one of the only times in film where the zombies, like, they do zombies, like these weird blue-gray zombies.
Right.
With the blood, because it was still that, it was late 70s, they had that crazy blood. So against the blue-gray and stuff, it looked wild. Like, it, you know, looked fucking crazy. Tons of, like, at the time, 78, a lot of the, like, the half-face gore and, like, some of the throat slits and some of the stuff that really hadn't barely been done at all yet.
Right.
Like, it really hadn't. So, like, I mean, granted, now I had years of seeing other films and all that stuff, but, like, I think back, I'm like, God, how insane would that have been to see that film?
Right.
You know, and that was released unrated. That was one of the biggest unrated releases, because Romero, I actually watched Document of the Dead, which is the documentary about, to prep for this actually.
Oh, really?
I watched it during when I had COVID, when I was at my sickest of COVID. I'm sitting there just shaking, and I'm just watching Document of the Dead. I'm like, God, I can't believe I haven't watched this yet. And have you ever watched a documentary?
I haven't, no.
Fantastic documentary. It's really cool because it actually goes through Romero for like 15 years of his life. Like, you see the guy who starts a documentary on Dawn, flash forward, they're together doing Day. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. Like, it's actually, like, it's insane.
Yeah.
Like, and Romero talks about the different eras of his filmmaking, how hard it becomes to make certain films and do, like, I think it's one of the best filmmaking documentaries I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's great. Barbara from Night of the Living Dead narrates the whole thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's dude, you got to see it. It's really, really good.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
From a filmmaking standpoint, because they'll go through and explain what each person is doing. Like, this is the makeup department doing this. The producer's job is this. It actually like breaks down like what everyone does and what they're doing on Dawn of the Dead.
Right.
And then it also goes behind the marketing, how hard it was from the market, how hard it was. They talk about the copyright issues with
of course.
So it's really, I couldn't believe how I was glued, just like I was on Dawn. I was glued, like watching, even though I'm dying, I'm shaking and sweating.
Right.
But something about Dawn, just every single thing resonated with me. Like the setups, we talked about film sets, the setups for scenes. A lot of the setups, like, they really show things that are going to happen later.
Oh, yeah.
The characters are fucking smart. They find a way to lock down this mall and get everything they need for survival. Probably some of the smartest characters definitely ever in a fucking zombie film,
yeah.
I think. Besides, the character's very smart in Day of the Dead, but at this point, humanity's gone, man. They're
right, and also at that point, they're used to the zombie stuff. I mean, even in Dawn of the Dead, it's still relatively new. Like, you get the sense in Day of the Dead, it's been like this forever.
Yeah,
like
for the last 6 to 8 years or something. They're in it. They've been doing the same shit, But Dawn, when Dawn takes off, I'm pretty sure they say like they're not sure if the zombie outbreak's everywhere yet, but it's on the East Coast,
right?
Because they're trying to look for a way to escape. Like maybe they can get west, maybe they can get south, maybe they can get they're trying to find a way to either hide until it blows over,
right,
or get to a place that maybe there's no infection yet,
right. And I guess I'll say what I'll say about Dawn of the Dead. Although Night of the Living Dead started it all, this is really where the zombie was perfected. And this is really... Because even like the Night of the Living Dead zombies, yeah, that's the zombies we know today, but it's also kind of not. Because they don't really act the way that they're going to act in Dawn of the Dead. Because like Dawn of the Dead, I guess the clearest example of this, and this is one of the greatest zombies of all time, is the one where he's alive earlier in the film. He gets turned into a zombie holding a gun. Yeah. And when he's a zombie... he doesn't have control over what his hand is doing. So he's walking around and the gun is just dangling dead in his hand. Like
Flyboy.
Yeah.
Flyboy, one of the main characters, yeah.
Right. So, like, that's really... Because, like, the other one, in Night of the Living Dead, they act like monsters.
Yeah.
In this one, they really act like the zombies we know today as a zombie.
Right.
Except, obviously you have Return of the Living Dead where it's a lot different. But... obviously another advantage, the color in this. There's a clip, one of my buddies put this on Twitter the other day. And his quote was, why Dawn of the Dead is better than Night of the Living Dead. And it's a clip of Stone Cold Steve Austin in an interview explaining what color means in wrestling. And as Stone Cold, he just says, color means blood. Yeah. And it's simple as that. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it that you haven't said about it. I don't have a grand story about it. It's a great film.
To me, it feels like one of the, especially at the time, I guess. Well, at the time, but also in the time, even when I saw it, it still feels like one of the most grand horror films.
Oh, yeah.
It's very grand. They're in the TV station. They're in this. You really... Especially for, I feel like at the time that they shot it, and even in the 80s, I feel like they didn't give horror films not necessarily enough of a budget, but they were using budget for like Nightmare on Elm Street, like a fantasy piece or all this. But like, this film is long for a horror film.
Oh, yeah.
And it goes a lot of places. Like, it feels like a worldwide, or the start of an actual zombie apocalypse. It's, even though they're in the mall for 50% of the film, a little more than that, there's the journey to get there, and there's a little bit of a journey at the end. It feels very grand. It feels larger than life. At the time, and even now, probably some of the most zombies on screen at some points. At one point, they were talking about in documentary. They talk about they're making up 100 zombies at a time, or they're doing and they'll zoom back and you'll see zombies and zombies and like the beautiful scene with them in the helicopter. And, they're doing the drive by the mall. And the zombies all in the parking lot shambling and all that. And, like, that scene is just, like, so epic, It's been used... Dead Rising, the video game, uses that same exact scene. Like, it's actually become, like, iconic,
Yeah. I feel like everything about this, like, even down to using the mall as the hideout. Like, you see that in all kinds of shit now. And, like, this even popularized the thing that's, like... Yeah, the mall is a great place to hide, so why do you think you're the only group that's going to try to use it? And then, like, the bikers show up. And, like, just everything about it. Like, I put Day on my list because I knew we were going to talk about Dawn on yours. But for me, like, I think that, again, I think all three of them are phenomenal and stand on their own.
Yep.
And you can talk about all three forever.
I think all three films are in my top 25. Like, I think they've all made, like, they're all... Like, I don't know. Everyone should watch, like, the original Dead trilogy because even if I feel like they're like zombie films for people that might not even like zombie films.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. And then I'm sure they talk about this in your documentary too, but just like the hassle would have been to shoot all that shit and like, cause like the mall was still open. Like they just had to clean everything up at 6 a.m.
Goes into detail. They were allowed to shoot from 10 p.m. at night to, somewhere in the early morning. But then you got to think.
You got to clean up all the blood.
Clean it. But the makeup, too. To find time to get the people in to do all the makeup.
Right.
And then shoot. So they go into the order of how they shot it and why they did certain things. And Romero talks in some scenes. Yeah, some night we might only have 4 people on set. Like 4 actors. Right. Next, there might be 50 or things like that. Like, but he was very, if I remember right, very meticulous about shooting, and I'm pretty sure that they had to take, I think, a month and a half break because Christmas.
There was some, yeah. Mm-hmm.
They weren't allowed to take down any of the Christmas decorations. So when Romero was off for that, he edited all the stuff he shot. And basically was already putting the film together.
Right. I mean, you got the opportunity to do it.
So he had a very clear vision when he came back for the second half of shooting of where he wanted to go.
Yeah.
But I think we said all that needed to be said. I could go on and on about Dawn of the Dead, but if anyone ever hears this that's has something to do with the rights for Dawn of the Dead,
put it out.
Please give us a new Blu-ray release. It's all I want in my life. I'll never get rid of that Ultimate Edition DVD set. It's a beautiful anchor-baited, phenomenal job with that. Seriously, rather fist fight someone in the street till I die than lose that. Please, no one come after me and do that because I just don't really want to do that. But I want my Dawn of the Dead Ultimate Edition. Like, I was gonna pack a bag, like my whole place is gonna burn to the ground. Bag of personal belongings. I throw some clothes in it. I throw Dawn of the Dead Ultimate Edition, that Night of the Living Dead DVD I talk about, and maybe a couple CDs. I don't know, maybe even not, because digital music's so big nowadays, but I'm a big music guy. I wouldn't be able to save my vinyl collection, so what's the point?
Right, there's too much,
way too much. But, I don't know. There it is. So what do you got? The big shocker?
So I don't think it's a big shocker, because I think it's going to be shocking. Like, oh, I can't believe I didn't think of this for Buddy. But I don't have a grand story about it like you do. There's no dogs on Christmas Day and all that shit. It was just me, freshman year of college, in Ricky's dorm room. He's like, Buddy, I don't know how you haven't seen Evil Dead 2 yet.
Fuck, I had a sneaking suspicion this was gonna be it, but I was like,
and like I don't even know what to say about it. Like, we've been going for like 3-4 hours now, but does everything the original does just better. I know you disagree,
and everyone knows this is why I didn't put it on my list too, because it's a phenomenal sequel. But
Miles loves the first one.
I love the first one so much more. I don't know. It's just one of those things. Like, for me, I think it's just about when things resonate, like in a certain time or whatever.
Yeah, but this one is obviously the budget is tripled. Yeah, at least. It actually begins with a pseudo remake of the first one. The first 10 minutes are a remake of the first film. this is the film where Ash really becomes Ash. Like how zombies really become zombies in Dawn of the Dead. In the first Evil Dead, Ash is just another guy.
Yeah.
In this one, this is where he becomes the one-liner spitting.
Yeah.
They still had gore in the first one, but this one takes it to another crazy level at the end. I don't really know what to say about it other than it's my favorite horror sequel. Like,
it's a wild ass film. It's a great film. The effects, obviously, I've talked about effects a lot in this, but I love like a lot of the films. Like for me, this list is like basically all 70s and 80s films, some early 90s films,
right?
But most of them were good stories, but a ton of good visuals and a ton of good special effects.
Yeah,
and that's what drew, like, a lot of stuff drew me in, but also great sequels. But anyways, continue about Evil Dead 2.
I don't know what else. I mean, the first one has the great stop motion stuff.
Right.
This one is more of just the big, like, creature effects. Like, there's something, like, a full-size sort of thing. Like, it's not, like, the claymation and shit. But, I don't know. Just everything about it's good. The characters are great. Hilarious as the rednecks in the woods. Ash, of course, is phenomenal. The groovy. The hand... I really don't even know what to say about it that I haven't said before, but
the way that you put why you love Evil Dead 2, I can understand that because it is where it becomes the iconic Ash. So I get that. I get why anyone, and also why Jared, I know, obviously loves it a lot more too. Like, I get why you guys love it more, but for me, it's just, I'm a big Evil Dead 1 fan. I think also I saw Evil Dead 1 somehow fairly early on, and then I don't think I saw Evil Dead. I'm, like you said, you were what, 19, 20?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if I saw Evil Dead 2 till I was probably like 21.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I knew I was going to get to it. So it was like, you have films, you're like, I'm going to get to this, and you do. You also have to think, even when we were 21, there was no Netflix streaming yet.
Right.
It was discs. Or it was the video store. So you were at the mercy sometimes of what was there. I might have even watched Evil Dead 2 when I lived in Maryland, because at that point, that year that I lived in Maryland, I was watching 2 to 3 films every day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
They still had a Hollywood Video within 10 minutes of where I lived. A Blockbuster and Hollywood Video were 5 minutes apart.
Oh, that's great.
So I could just... and they both had huge horror sections where I was. This was also... The town I was in also had an insane amount of red boxes. I was working late at night, middle of the night for the newspaper. So what I would do is, when they would have new releases on Tuesdays, Redbox at 12:01 would release whatever the film is.
Oh, really?
So I would get... on my way to work... I'd have passed 2 different red boxes on the way to work. At 1:30 in the morning or whatever... Zoom in, get 2 or 3 red box, whatever the newest releases were. If it was horror, whatever, a lot of it was horror that I would get. Watch them, return them all the next night. So I was, like, Tuesdays were my red box days. Wednesdays I'd be hitting Blockbuster. Sometimes I'd go to 3, because there's another video store too. I did 3 video stores in an hour.
Jesus Christ.
The good
living the dream, yeah.
But that was also too towards the end of the video store days.
Yeah.
Because like within the next year, like this was 2008, 2009, around 2010, besides like Family Video, a lot of them started tanking.
Right.
Because when I got to PA in 2010, fall 2010, that was when they tried to do Blockbuster Plus, and it was the discs. It was like the kiosks. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
So Pittsburgh actually had a lot of those. So I remember renting from them. But that was the year that 2010, 2011, they started shutting a bunch of Blockbusters down.
And I guess, like, with the advent of, like, being able to stream and seeing stuff in, like, high def, because, like, I hadn't seen the original Evil Dead recently until I watched it on a big TV like this. And, like, I didn't realize that, like, in the original film, they had just, like, the moon superimposed.
Yeah.
Because, like, I had always watched it on, like, VHS or whatever, when I was younger. But I guess definitely, like, with the advent of that, like, I can see modern audiences getting into Evil Dead 2 a lot more than Evil Dead 1.
Yeah.
Because in Evil Dead 2, it's a horror comedy. Like, you're supposed to be laughing at a lot of this stuff, but I have a feeling like in Evil Dead 1, like, if you were to sit a bunch of people down, they might be laughing for not the right reasons.
Right.
So, this might be a controversial thing to say, but I think Army of Darkness kind of sucks. But that's just me.
To be honest, I'm not a huge fan of Army of Darkness either. I have it. I know when I watch Army of Darkness for the first time. Army of Darkness I watched in college a couple times. I lived with a girl and our upstairs roommate. They were obsessed with Army of Darkness, and I was like they liked it more than the Evil Deads, and I was like, oof. I'm like, oh.
I think that's Ricky's favorite out of all of them.
Is it?
I think so.
And I remember watching it. I think I'd watched it once before that, but then I had to watch, like, we had a couple sculpting parties. We watched it a couple other times, and I was just like, it's just too tonally different for me, where it's fun, but part of me I'm just not into it. I don't know what it is.
Right.
I don't know. I'm not, but I bought it. I went out of my way, I don't know, X amount of years ago and got all 3 of them on Blu-ray.
Right.
But I've been wanting to sit down for a while and just do like a straight, like, maybe not all on the same day, maybe a weekend, watch all 3 and then really think about like where my rankings are or whatever. But to me, I've still seen Evil Dead 1 the most, and like I know I'm still gonna like it the most just because how I am. But I'd also like to go through and watch some of the special features and stuff, because I got from the Army of Darkness release, it was like the Screwball edition, which actually had like the alternate ending that I'd never seen.
Right, not the Hail the King Baby one, but the other one.
Yeah,
where
it came out later because they had alternate footage. Have you ever seen it? I don't know. And
I haven't seen it. I've only seen the one where he is back in the store or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, I haven't watched all that alternate footage yet, but I plan on going through and like doing all that. But I think that's a great. I mean, I didn't know if it was going to be your number 1. I had a feeling it was going to be on your list, and then as we started talking, I didn't think about it again. To be honest, it's a really fucking good sequel. It's one of the few that I just love the first one so much more. I don't know. I get it. You love Halloween. People love Halloween 1 a fuck ton more, and I love Halloween 2. Yeah. So I mean, it is what it is.
To me, it's just the perfect Cabin in the Woods movie. I would love to go to a double feature at the drive-in if they play both back to back. I'm sure they have 100 times, but I've just never been there. Not at ours.
They did Evil Dead 1 with something.
It was like Evil Dead 1 and like Nightmare on Elm Street or something.
Okay.
But if they ever did them back to back, I'd be there.
Either in Pennsylvania or Michigan, somebody I knew on Instagram, last Halloween they did, or October, somewhere like somewhat close, did both of them back to back.
Yeah.
Because I forget someone I knew went to it, but obviously it's still a little bit of a drive. You want to drive 5 hours to go to the drive-in. And then
be there till 4 in the morning, yeah.
Seriously.
Jesus Christ. Well,
speaking of that,
I think it's about time we wrap this up. And, yeah, that's about it. Let us know what your favorite horror sequels are. Thanks for coming on the show and shooting the shit with me for the past 4 hours.
Yeah, this has been the longest podcast I've ever done.
I think same. So,
but we knew. I didn't think it was gonna be this long. And I still feel like some of them we
were like short,
briefly touched on them. Like, could have been almost a two banger, but. I don't know. People get bored. They don't, if they've seen them, they don't want to hear everything. But a lot of these, I have those key stories, those key moments watching them, and they're...
That's good shit. And as long as it's entertaining, I think this is a good podcast. I mean, this is right up there with last year's, so...
It helps. It helps when I'm sober and it's not midnight and we're starting a podcast.
Normally, this is when we're starting. It's 12:20 right now.
And right now, my 32-year-old back is just, like, screaming because we're sitting up on a couch into the mic for this. Mind you, there's a nice backing about 2 feet away, but...
too far away from the mic?
It's too far from the mic. I got yelled at one podcast for sitting back and doing it, so I'm not doing it. This was the important podcast, I felt like, that I really wanted to do, so...
Yeah.
But shout out to the future Nightmare on Elm Street ranking one that we're going to do. I'm very excited about that. Because some of them it's been a while, and I'm curious to see as the years go on, you rewatch these series, and sometimes you find, like you said, you thought 2 was going to be trash, and you're like, oh, this is actually really good.
Yeah.
Curious to see how I feel about 5, and I'm curious to see how I see about Freddy's Dead, because Freddy's Dead has parts, if I remember right, that I like a lot more than I'd like to admit, and I think I might like Freddy's Dead better than Part 5.
I don't want to give anything away, but I was very impressed with Freddy's Dead.
That's what I.
But I won't say which ones it was better than others, but I was blown away how much better it was than I thought it was. Same with Part 2. But
I have a Freddy's Dead poster, actually. It used to hang up in my old house. I got it because I don't know if this was because it's like a Subway type poster, the prints they put on
to
sell the films. But I'd never seen this version of the poster before, and it has a new line, everything on it. It has a born on date, which is the day that Nightmare on Elm Street 1 came out, and then in the middle it has Freddy's hat, and then underneath it says dead, and it's the date of when that came out, and it's a very simple poster. But I fucking loved it for some reason.
Right.
And I just liked that it was the days of when they were going to be in theaters. So, I don't know. Because you always see the Freddy's Dead with a big claw. It's like, you know what I'm talking about.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So I remember when I saw it, I was like, I kind of want that for some reason. I don't know.
Right. Before we head out of here, give us a quick, your 10 real fast.
Real quick?
Yeah.
I was going to say.
Just so anyone who's been like, well, what the hell did they talk about an hour ago? Or like,
I was actually going to ask you to do that. I was going to do that when we got off the podcast. But my top 10, Demons 2. We'll start at 10. Obviously, 10,
right.
Demons 2, Exorcist Part 3, The Fly Part 2, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, Return of the Living Dead Part 3, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Hellraiser 2 Hellbound, Friday the 13th Part 2, Halloween 2, and Dawn of the Dead. And I'm going to say, if I look through these right now, my handwritten list, it looks like it's from the fucking 90s or 80s. If there's one that I want people to say that's probably the most underrated on this, I really think Return of the Living Dead Part 3 is someone that is just a phenomenal film. And it's almost become like, I feel like a hidden gem, or like I see a lot of people used to praise it, but if you're like an up and coming horror fan,
right,
it's a very different zombie film, and check it the fuck out.
Right. So mine, for number 10, we got Psycho 2. 9, we have Dracula Has Risen from the Grave. Number 8, Annabelle Creation. 7, Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. Number 6 is Saw 2. 5 is Cult of Chucky. 4, Day of the Dead. 3, Son of Frankenstein. 2, Paranormal Activity 3. And then number 1, Evil Dead 2.
I love how varied your list is, though. I will say that. It's
it's varied by design, man. Because I could have just threw New Nightmare on there.
I got too fucking excited, man. Like me, like I was like, da, 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 da. Like I was just like, oh, I love all these films. And then you get to the bottom, and I was kind of like,
See, I put some thought into my list, but I also didn't want to overthink it.
Mine was all heart. Like mine was like, as soon as I said, I was just like,
right.
So kind of different ways to do our list. I like that your list had a little bit of everything. And stuff I really didn't expect. Yeah, I don't know. You probably expected most of this, but you haven't seen a lot of this either.
I expected at least half of yours.
I figured. I'm pretty vocal about a few films.
Right. I love the handwritten list. Classic Miles. No technology involved. Didn't know how to work his phone when he was trying to look up the facts about the films. It's fine.
No, my fucking Letterboxd was fucked up, cat. For some reason, when I typed in Dracula, like I was typing in the Dracula stuff, or even I typed in Dracula Hammer films, Letterboxd, it didn't bring anything up.
Huh.
So I was like, that's why I was like, what? Because you can type in Saw.
And everything will pop up right away, yeah.
You can type in Exorcist and anything like that. Like, even if it's, whatever. But, anyways,
we gotta...
We've talked quite a bit.
Right, yeah. And the cats are going ape shit right now, and... He's got to get home to his beloved dog, Mocha.
He's got to go to work tomorrow.
He's got to go to work tomorrow. I got tomorrow off, but it's fine. But yeah, thanks everyone for sticking out with us through this show that might be a two-parter. I don't know. We'll see. I might have to break it up. But
last note, what would film, since I did that, what film would you recommend the most that you think's underrated or that you think that someone should watch?
On mine, I'd probably, because a lot of mine are stuff most people have seen besides Son of Frankenstein and the old Dracula one, so I'm not going to recommend those. You know what I'll say? I'll say if you haven't seen Psycho 2, if you were putting off Psycho 2 because you're like, all right, there's no way this could possibly be remotely watchable, I would say, you know what, if you're in the mood for something different, give it a shot.
Hey, I like that recommendation. All right, Midnight Miles. It's now after midnight.
It's after midnight.
So I need to go the fuck to bed.
All right, and we will see you guys in another episode. Take care, everyone.
Thanks for having me on again.
That's about it for this time, guys. I hope you enjoyed the 2-part season finale of Buddy's House of Horror podcast. Again, let me know what you guys want to hear in season 4, which is coming this October. And yeah, of course, if you've listened this far and you aren't subscribed yet over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you're listening to this on, make sure you subscribe. Share the show with your friends. Give it a thumbs up. Leave a rating and a review. Whatever you guys can do to help out the show, it really means a lot to me. And yeah, I will see you guys back for more House of Horror content coming this October. But in the meantime, guys, have a great summer, and as always, stay spooky.